Once the needs of the role have been determined and recruitment has begun, the next phase is selection. The selection process is really the process of hiring the most suitable candidate for the vacant position. The most core element to the selection process are often interviews. There's various types of interview styles that may be useful in some situations. The most effective selection interviews will typically combine various elements of style. Selection interviews are designed to probe areas of interest to the interviewer in order to determine how well the candidate meets the needs of the organization. There are various types of interview formats, and the suitability of each may vary depending on the type of role. Pre-screening interviews are useful when an organization has a high volume of applicants for a job, and initial interviews are needed to judge pre-qualification factors. These interviews are usually conducted by HR or a recruiter and oftentimes may be virtual. This could mean screening candidates for minimum job requirements, such as experience with a specific system, as an example. In a behavioral interview, the interviewer focuses on how the applicant previously handled situations. The key is to focus on real experiences, not hypothetical ones. The interviewee gives an example that illustrates past performance, while the interviewer looks for three key things: a description of the situation or task, the action taken, and the result or outcome. The candidate may be asked how they came to a decision in order to establish analytical and critical thinking skills, as well as how the candidate may react to stressful situations.
Tell me about a time you had to overcome an objection to close the deal.
Well, I can think of a time that a customer had already signed with a competitor. Let me tell you about how that was turned around.
In a situational interview, the interviewer asks questions designed to elicit stories and examples that demonstrate the applicant's skills and qualifications for the position. The intent is similar to that of a behavioral interview in trying to predict future behavior. But where behavioral interviews focus on real-life experiences, situational interviews describe hypothetical situations and ask a candidate to comment on how they would typically handle them.
Suppose a customer became upset and irrational. How would you typically handle that type of situation?
Well, in that type of situation, I'd likely tell the customer that we don't get paid enough to take disrespect, and they are welcome to shop elsewhere.
In directive interviews, the interviewer poses specific questions to the candidate and keeps control. This type of interview is highly structured. The interviewer walks the candidate through the discussion to uncover what the interviewer wants to know.
That's interesting. My next question is unrelated to that, as I have a few more sections to cover.
You're the boss.
In non-directive interviews, the interviewer asks open questions and provides general direction, but allows the applicant to guide the process. In this process, there's not a set format, and questions are not necessarily predetermined. A response to one question may lead to an additional question that the interviewer asks.
Based upon that answer, do you feel you would have done anything differently?
No, not at all.
In a structured interview, the interviewer asks every applicant the exact same questions. Follow-up probes, however, may be different. In this type of interview, the same interviewing methods are used to assess candidates applying for the same job. This type of interview style is also called a repetitive interview. In a patterned interview, the interviewer asks each applicant questions that are from the same knowledge, skill, or ability area. The interviewer will ask each candidate a carefully crafted set of identical questions in the same way and in the same order. Generally, follow-up questions are discouraged because information gathered in this manner is thought to prejudice the interviewer's opinion of the candidate. In a stress interview, the interviewer assumes an aggressive posture to see how the candidate responds to stressful situations. This style is used extensively in occupations such as air traffic control and other high-stress roles. The idea is that it will give the hiring team an idea of how the candidate will react when juggling various high-priority tasks and other stressful challenges. Another method may be a group or panel interview. In a group interview, multiple job candidates are interviewed by one or more interviewers at the same time. This type of interview is usually done only where the job duties are clearly defined. In a group interview, while there may be multiple interviewers, there are also multiple candidates interviewing at the same time. In a panel interview, structured questions are spread across the group. The individual who is most competent in the relevant area usually asks the question. In a panel interview, multiple interviewers are interviewing at the same time, with only one candidate in the room. Interview bias occurs when the interviewer judges a candidate not only on their skills and competencies, but also on unspoken and sometimes unconscious criteria, hence making the interview less objective. Planning questions and interview formats in advance can help avoid such issues. Stereotyping involves forming generalized opinions about how people of a given gender, religion, or race appear, think, act, feel, or respond. An example could be an interviewer discounting a candidate from a certain gender based on the feeling that people from that gender are bad listeners or communicators. With contrast error, strong candidates who interview after weak candidates may appear more qualified than they actually are simply because of the contrast. Negative emphasis involves rejecting a candidate on the basis of a small amount of negative information. Research indicates that interviewers give unfavorable information roughly twice the weight of favorable information. With the first impression error, the interviewer makes snap judgments and lets their first impression, whether positive or negative, cloud the entire interview. Inconsistency in questioning can also present a risk, as this involves asking different questions to different candidates. This could elevate discrimination risk if not carefully prepared. Similar to me bias involves picking candidates based on personal characteristics that they share with the interviewer rather than job-related criteria. The halo and horn effect occur when the interviewer allows one strong point that they value to strongly overshadow all other information. When this works in the candidate's favor, it's called the halo effect. When this works in the opposition, with the interviewer judging the potential employee unfavorably in all areas on the basis of one trait, that is called the horn effect. Cultural noise is the failure to recognize responses of a candidate that are socially acceptable rather than factual. Since the candidate wants the job, he or she will be reluctant to tell the interviewer unacceptable facts about themselves. The candidate may give responses that are politically correct, but not very revealing. Nonverbal bias may also occur when there is undue emphasis placed on nonverbal cues that are unrelated to job performance. This could be as simple as a handshake or lack of eye contact. There may also be a need for pre-employment testing. The benefit of testing is that they can be designed to focus solely on what really matters for the job. The test could be as straightforward as a typing test to determine speed and accuracy, or possibly one of the more popular personality tests, such as a Gallup Strength Finder, to provide additional insight beyond the interviews. The best hiring decisions consider many aspects of a candidate's personality, behavior, and skills, and thus we must not rely too much on the score of one test. Many compliance issues should be considered when implementing pre-employment testing. While no federal, state, or local law regulates the proper use of pre-employment tests, United States law prohibits discrimination against anyone on the basis of personal qualities that aren't job-related. This makes it important to properly align any pre-employment selection techniques to actual needs of the role. Employers are prohibited from using neutral tests or selection procedures that have the effect of disproportionately excluding persons based on race, color, religion, sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity, or national origin if the test or selection procedures are not considered to be job-related to the position in question, as well as consistent with business necessity. Pre-employment tests should be validated. Validation and reliability in hiring tools are present if tests accurately and appropriately measure what they're supposed to measure, and if the tests are shown to produce consistent results over time. Concurrent validity involves comparing a new test with an existing test of the same nature to see if they produce similar results. This usually means a new assessment is being compared to a previously used assessment which has already been proven to be valid. Concurrent validity also means the practice of concurrently testing two groups at the same time or asking two groups of people to take the same test. Predictive validity is the degree to which predictions made by a test are confirmed by the later behavior of the test takers. With this, we're basically asking, how well did this test truly relate to success on the job? If properly validated, the higher score one achieves on the test, the higher their performance level in the workplace should be. Content validity is the degree to which an interview, test, or other selection device accurately measures the knowledge, skills, abilities, or other qualifications that are actually part of the job. A test is considered content valid if it reflects an actual sample of the work to be done. An example could be a data entry assessment. If the test is not a fair representative of the domain the test seeks to measure, it may not be considered a valid assessment. Construct validity is the extent to which the selection device measures the theoretical construct or trait. Typical constructs are intelligence or mechanical comprehension. Personality traits include characteristics like anxiety. An example could be a series of problem-solving events. With construct validity, we are asking how well a person is likely to respond to a specific type of situation. The measurement is much more physical, such as measuring personality, intelligence, emotional maturity, or level of emotion.